Howdy folks, greetings from the Ganges River. I am on a little sort of offshoot of the river that trickles through these rocks here, goes through this area of boulders, some nice little pools and stuff here on a nice and sunny day, or partly cloudy but mostly sunny. So just been soaking up the sunshine, went for a swim in the Ganges, the main part of the river there a little bit earlier. So just having a nice mellow relaxing day here. So this video is on the subject of the problem with spiritual teachers, and I just thought that I would explore a few concepts here. Now first I should just clarify that I'm definitely not saying spiritual teachers are all wrong or something like that. I am certainly of the viewpoint of the importance of following our own inner guidance, our own inner teacher to a great extent, and finding our own version of truth, our own perspective, our own religion, as it were, because there is no ultimate absolute truth. Follow these 10 commandments or precepts or principles, and therefore you will be good and you will be headed in the right direction and on your way to heaven. That the path of life should not be one of simply following rules or following leaders who proclaim to have all the answers. However, I also do believe that everyone can be a teacher to some extent, so it's not just about listening to supposed authority figures or those who claim to have a lock on the truth or anything, but learning from others' perspectives, and especially from those who at least profess to have a wider view of reality, to have had experiences that have expanded their mind and opened their heart, hopefully, because that's even more important than an open mind, and have visions or perspectives of reality that others who have not experienced that yet can learn from and can follow that vision in a direction of perhaps achieving such a perspective as well. Simply the awareness that others have viewed other aspects of reality, other versions of reality, other dimensions or planes of existence or other beings, can open up our minds to the possibility of us seeing these realms as well, and at the very least allow us to tap into our intuition in such a way that we are operating from a perspective of believing that there are other alternate realities, whether we know that to be the case or not, but just following our intuition on that, in part because of those who claim to be in touch with these other realities. And there are so many people, especially these days, thousands of people who are saying that they're channeling alien beings and have had out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences and seen the realms of the angels and into different dimensions and spoken with those who have passed on. So I'm sort of rambling in a totally different direction here, but the point being that I do think that there is a place for spiritual teachers. However, I do think that there can oftentimes be a tendency for spiritual teachers to adopt a perspective that is limited to a great extent, in that just think of the typical persona of the guru talking about all these grand concepts: oneness, enlightenment, uniting with the universal minds, contacting higher dimensions, always thinking positively and having positive feelings all the time, and just these very lofty, high-minded ideas that can oftentimes choose a somewhat narrow slice of reality, of real experience, and focus on that at the detriment of the reality that that people are experiencing in their lives. And these teachings can oftentimes present a view of reality that can be disconnected from our real lives, and present a way of being that can feel constrictive. I do seek to learn from many of these teachers, but for me, what's most important is just to be my honest self as much as possible. In order to make a clay pot, for example, you have to have some clay to work with. You have to have some substance, something or other, to work with, which you can then refine and sculpt into something beautiful and artistic. But you have to have something to work with, first of all. So we are all, to a great extent, stunted in terms of who we are, in terms of the true substance of our being, of our spontaneous expression, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, creatively, that we don't have a whole lot of stuff to work with just because of this constrictive society that we have been raised in, that doesn't value the depth of the human spirit, and that has presented to us a constricted view of reality. And so we need to get in touch with some deeper, more real, more substantive truth of our being. And that can mean really just finding anything you can. Finding any natural, spontaneous expression within. Whether it is anger, fear, hatred, frustration, sadness, crying, just random creative expression that might not necessarily result in anything spectacular or beautiful, but that gets you in touch with some just primal element within. And then you have that clay that you can be sculpting into something more refined and more beautiful and more high vibrating. But to a great extent, where society is at right now is just that we are numbed out, that we're cut off from ourselves, and we really need to just start digging deep, leaping within, and just sort of like a blind person in a straitjacket in a room, just crashing against the walls to figure out where you're at and what's going on, and just kind of start flailing around and see what you bump into and what you come across. And in so doing, then contact something vital, something spontaneous, free-flowing within yourself, so that you have some substance to work with. And oftentimes these high-minded spiritual teachings say you shouldn't have negative feelings, you should just focus on the positive and think happy thoughts and be in the higher realms and the upper part of yourself, the higher self. And they can very much negate and minimize the real world experiences that we go through on a day-to-day basis, and the feelings that we experience, and the fact that that's where we are, and that's what we need to work with, and so just finding some kind of creative expression can be the most spiritual thing that there is, and just to go with that and see where it leads you. Because once you contact something real and spontaneous within yourself, that leads to other deeper parts of yourself. And in my view, that's what really gets you going in the right direction, is finding that unhinged, reined in, just primal source of energy within, and then working with that. And once you've contacted that, then you can start sculpting it and creating something more beautiful out of it. But you have to find what may very well be ugliness within, so that you can start transforming that into these higher ideals. So my path is really one of just trying to be my honest self as much as I can, and trusting that is the best guidance that we can have in finding truth, basically. So I'm all for spiritual teachers inspiring us to reach greater heights, but sometimes these teachings can be ungrounded and not anchored in the real world enough. So just to balance out that upper with lower, the high and the low, the objective grand worldview with the truth of the subjective experience, and to try to merge those two realities, and in so doing create something beautiful that has some real depth to it, some real substance to it, instead of just a mirage that looks good. So there you go. The potential problem with spiritual teachers, not that it's always a problem. All right, take it.